I shouldn't tell you this really, but because I don't want everybody coming around my house, so I've got a mirror ball hanging up in a tree outside my house.
Yeah.
With a few spotlights on it and a few fairy lights in the tree. And the amount of people who've come past and I've been stood in my front yard and people saying how lovely it is. And it's those simple little things that we can do. And I don't know if you noticed, but lots more people seem to have lights outside their houses than before.
Yes.
And that's an expression, I think, of people almost calling out to each other, not showing off, but just trying to delight people walking past.
Thank you so much for calling. It's a real pleasure to chat to you, Nick. A breath of fresh air. It's lovely.
Yeah, put that over there. Yeah, and I've got the records. Yeah, I'll put the records down here. Yeah, okay. I've got Ultimate Brakes and Beats, White Label, Rolls Royce Car Wash. Is that right, Crispin? Yeah, Sister Sledge, We Are Family, a few white labels. Okay, well, I'll leave those there for later. Yeah. Okay, I'll catch you. What? Mike Fairclough now. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. Sorry about that. We're just getting ready for party tonight. We're going to be absolutely smashing it here tonight. We've got the mirror ball up, as you can see there, ready to go. We're going to be setting up the DJ decks, all vinyl tonight, as you've seen. No CDJs, no MP3s, pure old school disco dancing to end up our happy Monday 21. Absolutely fantastic day. Great talks, heard from Peter Lovett earlier. We heard from community dance practitioner Lucy earlier. Wonderful, wonderful day. And this is going to be a real highlight now. I mean, we had a crazy end of year last year. We had the Aim High 20 Festival up there in Leeds with Parkins Primary and Chris Dyson and the community there. We then went straight into recording a Christmas single, Come On In From the Cold, with the Commoners Choir, and we got that into iTunes and all the stores there to buy. We did a rip-off version of Top of the Pops at New Year. Only had Christmas Day off. It was just full on, absolutely full on. And this year we've come out the stocks running. Hashtag InspireNation21. We want to inspire a nation with creativity. And it was lovely. I don't know if you heard much of the stuff about the mirror ball up there, but Kylie Minogue did a lovely little piece over Christmas on BBC local radio about disco, the sense of community, how mirror balls, disco balls shine light into people's lives, light in the darkness. It's been really, really lovely to sort of hear those vibes. So that's what's really inspired today, and nobody's more vibey than our next special guest. I'll be honest with you, pretty full on, lost mojo a little bit, took a week or so to get up to speed like a lot of people, and two things really kicked it off. One was last week we got a call from 64 million artists who are working with Lem Cisse, the poet, on the January challenge, hashtag the January challenge. Every day in January they're issuing a different creative challenge to people. It's wonderful. And we asked people to design an I Love Art t-shirt. I've got some stickers here. In better times I'd be able to give you a sticker, but not at the moment, it's a COVID risk. And over 200 people sent those in, and one lady on the Zoom chat we had last week said that the project, this 64 Million Artists project, had almost saved her life. She was really quite down, and it really gave her something to live for, that sense of community, the creativity. It really was wonderful. And that really got me thinking and got me going again into the new year. And then last week I saw a new book that just come out, Wild Thing, by Mike Fairclough, a head teacher down in Sussex. It's his second book, as far as I'm aware. The first one was called Playing with Fire, teaching kids to handle matches, firearms even responsibly, and giving those character development skills. But this new book really struck me. Embracing Childhood Traits in Adulthood. And at the top it says, a beautiful, joyous book that will only take a day to read, and yet Mike Fairclough says such wise and wonderful things, it could change your life. And we've pinned today really on some of the tenets in this book to help us get through this Blue Monday, as some people like to think of it. For us, it's not Blue Monday 21, it's more of a Happy Monday 21. And the themes in this book really, the first one that really struck me was it encourages you to lead a creative life. And the simple thing that might embody might be just being grateful, have gratitude. However bad things are, they could be worse, believe me, for a lot of us. So really being grateful for what we've got. So creativity in the way we live our life can lead to gratitude. And from that, it's been academically proven, you will feel happier. The research is there that if you're more grateful and just get on with things, it will make you happier. If you're happier, then good things happen. The good luck comes. So we've got a gratitude thing, we've got a creativity thing, we've got a gratitude thing, we've got a happiness thing, and we've got a good luck thing. All about living our lives and being human. So I'm absolutely delighted to welcome an utter utter legend. Here to the happy Monday 21 session. If I press this button here, there we go. Mike Fairclough, how are you today?
I'm fantastic, Nick. How are you doing?
Don't ever pause like that. It always makes me lose a beat. Brilliant. Thanks so much, Mike. I don't know if you managed to catch much of that ramble, but I mean, the book here, it says on the front, a beautiful, joyous book that will only take a day to read. Well, I have to question that. And yes, Mike Fairclough says such wise and wonderful things. It could change your life forever. I mean, Mike, thank you for this book. I mean, you've written a couple of books. I mean, we should probably take a step back, really, because I know we haven't got much time, because I know you've got you sort of on children duties tonight. But give everybody just a very brief context of yourself and your work as a school community leader, a head teacher.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm the head teacher of West Rise Junior School in Eastbourne on the south coast of England, and I've got 365 children, about 50 members of staff. And then what makes this school quite unique, we're a state-funded school, just like many others, and located on the council estates of Langley and Chinewater in Eastbourne. But what makes this school different is that we've also got 120 acres of marshland attached to the school. And on that land, we do loads of outdoor learning. So every single child will learn to light a fire, cook over an open fire. They learn to forage for food. They go fishing. We have got a small herd of Asian water buffalo that the children look after.
Wow.
Sheep, ducks, loads of stuff like that. Beekeeping we do. We take the children shooting, not shooting animals, but like target practice with air rifles and clay pigeon shooting with 10-4 shotguns. And it's very much about embracing risk and danger. And the idea is that if you give children real experiences, when they go back into the classroom, those experiences will be transferred and transported into the classroom. So a child who is learning outside in the elements and feeling the wind in their hair and against their face, and dealing with there it is. You've got it. That's our marsh.
Well, I'm not being funny, mate. I'm not being funny, but But that little red blip there is your school, and all I see is a housing estate around it. Where's this marsh?
That's it.
Is that little bit of green there?
So if you move to either the left or the right.
Oh wow! Oh, hang on.
Keep going. The entire green space there, and that big lake. That's ours. So we're out on that every single day. Yeah. And it's an amazing, one of the grooviest things about that space, one of the grooviest vibes about it is that has not been built on at all for a long, long time, thousands of years actually. And it's because it's a floodplain, so that if the sea comes in, the marshes, this marsh and other marshes in Eastbourne, will essentially stop the town from flooding.
Okay.
And and on this land, there are creatures like the raft spider and various forms of very rare beetle, which have an unbroken lineage in that area since prehistoric times. So if you just think about that for a second, creatures which have been there for thousands and thousands of years. And it's also the site of a very large Bronze Age settlement. So 3,000 years ago, some of the children's ancestors would have been living out on that land, hunting, fishing, engaging with the natural space in a really kind of possibly quite ritualistic kind of a way. And what we've tried to do is try to replicate that by building a Bronze Age replica village. The wonderful Eastbourne Museum will come across to the school with fragments of pottery which have been found in the land, which actually have the fingerprints of its makers in it. I mean, incredible. So the children making clay pots themselves will also handle 3,000-year-old fragments of pots and put their fingers in the fingerprints of their ancestors. So it's an incredibly cool place, and the community are just brilliant. You know, they're just so supportive, and it's a real, it's just brilliant, lovely family. Currently, like most schools, we are open. This is something I think this is important to say. Schools are not closed. Schools are very much open, just to fewer pupils. Not that few. I mean, we've got 100 in our school and 265 learning at home. Some schools have got 70% of their pupils in at the moment. And but anyway, so we've got kids in school, kids out of school. But even within these sort of challenging times, we found that children learning outside is incredibly important, because that nature connection is one of the ways in which we reconnect to ourselves, reconnect to our spirit, and is very much a kind of part of the healing journey, which is what I'm really into.
And I know you covered a lot of that in your first book, didn't you? Playing with Fire, which I think got some great headlines. You know, the head teacher who allows 12-bore shotguns and gives children matches to play with, but all within a very controlled and safe way. I mean, how would you summarise your objectives for letting kids play with guns and matches, Mike? I mean, come on.
Okay, so I grew up in the Chiltern Hills in Buckinghamshire, and I had quite a sort of feral childhood. So I was allowed from an early age to venture off into the woodlands and the fields and the farmland with my friends, and we regularly trespassed and built camps, and always invented some kind of fictional adversary which would be kind of chasing after us as well, which is all part of our story. And we used to go hunting. We all had air rifles and that kind of thing. It was proper kind of country upbringing. And I feel like, for me personally, I've never lost that kind of boyhood desire to play and to explore and to imagine, and to be honest with you, to break rules as well. I kind of like enjoy doing that. And so
we've got a lot in common. We've got a lot in common there, Mike. We've got a lot. Sorry to cut in. We've got a lot in common there, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, you get a bit of a buzz from it, don't you? Particularly because if you're breaking rules in the sense that it's for the greater good. And by rules, I don't just mean like the laws of the land. I mean rules which we impose on ourselves, which is very much what Wild Thing is about. I just feel like children, as they grow up, well-meaning adults in their lives, whether it might be parents, it might be teachers, or other organisations of adults, will lay down various kind of rules which are meant to be in service of children's sort of well-being and longevity and all of those sorts of things. And in many respects they are, but also it can do a lot to kind of damage our creativity as well. So you've heard things like get your head out of the clouds, stop daydreaming, curiosity killed the cat. I mean, how can curiosity be a bad thing?
Well, we had a lot.
So the Wild Thing is about really recapturing our love and our excitement for life. And I don't think you even need to read the book to do it. You just actually have to go outside, connect with a tree in your local park, or get down on anyone with young kids. So I've got in my own family, I've got a 23-year-old eldest boy called Tally, who lives in Holland now. Iggy, who's 16, who's reluctantly doing online learning in my school right now, being quite grumpy today actually. And then there's Luna and Star, who are my 3-year-old twin daughters. And I find that with Luna and Star, no matter what my state of consciousness is, and I'll give you an example. Last night I came home from work and I was this was on Friday night. Friday night, came home from work, quite sort of tired. Would love to have just laid down on the sofa, maybe had a glass of wine and gone to sleep or something, just recharge my batteries. And Luna and Star, as soon as I walked through the door, had totally different plans. And within a matter of seconds, they created this hair salon where they were putting pipe cleaners in my hair and other flowers and things. And then suddenly Star said, "Oh, right, you have to be in my shop now." And she had this kind of like restaurant thing with plastic and wooden fruit and like stuff like that. Quite a tyrannical restaurateur, I have to say. She was very demanding. I had to order things literally every sort of 30 seconds. But what I found was that within probably about 2 minutes, my sort of general sense of sort of fatigue and a bit like, oh, I'm knackered, and my head being all full of thoughts, was totally transformed because I was in a playful state, and I was my imagination had been rekindled, and I found that I wasn't tired anymore. So that's an example. Now, it's not just about playing with children or playing like children, it's just having that more kind of light-hearted outlook on things, whilst also adopting some other childhood traits which children do incredibly bloody brilliantly. And one of them, I have to say, is resilience. Children, and I've noticed this with the vast majority of the children at my school, but also I've heard this from colleagues in other schools as well. Children are dealing with the pandemic on the whole incredibly well. Now, that's not to say that there are not mental health issues and anxieties on the rise, and you know, certainly safeguarding issues have spiked during this time with people being at home and all of that kind of stuff. But we've got to look at the positive as well. And I would say that in my experience, the vast majority of children are really rising to the challenge. And I think the reason for that is because children, from the moment they're born, have huge demands placed on them, and they're expected to move out of their comfort zones on a daily basis. So whether it's learning to walk and talk, or navigating their way through the complex and sometimes contradictory nuances of the adult world, learning to write, then going to school and being expected to perform every single day in different contexts, just like that. Going outside and doing PE in the rain, all of that kind of stuff. Children are brilliant at facing adversity and rising to the challenge. And it's actually adults, because we're conditioned to sort of pursue a life of safety and routine and things, which is, like, you know, laudable in itself, but it's not really preparing us
Well, I think
for those moments when life comes along and really takes the rug up from under us. So,
I mean,
so what I also do within the book, that we build our grit and resilience, and the way that we do that is by intentionally moving ourselves out of our comfort zones. Not all the time, because we'll burn out, but on a regular basis. And what I found within myself is that, and what I found with the children at the school as well. So we'll put the children out in sub-zero temperatures out on the marsh, in the driving rain. They'll have to erect shelters against the elements. You know, children who may have in the classroom been identified as having ASD or ADHD, or might be described as being anxious. All of them become these empowered individuals when they're outside and they're battling against the elements, because they have to. And they actually find these inner resources that they hadn't previously identified before, and they just blossom. And of course, that's then transferable to the classroom. So what I'm sort of saying in the adult world is, and it doesn't matter whether you buy the book or not, it's just more about kind of seeing these sort of incredible things that children are able to do. I mean, I'm in room 13, the studio at my school at the moment, looking out of the window, and I'm seeing children playing in a playground which is like empty, and yet they're able to create games out of thin air. They're becoming characters at the drop of the hat. They're making up games. They're collaborating. They're working in teams. It's just, kids have got it, and I think that we could do a lot by looking at how they behave and what their traits are, and replicating them for as I say in the book, a happier, more carefree life.
Well, funny enough, Mike, I mean, I pulled up a tweet that from my Saturday morning lying in bed. You don't have to get up in a hurry anymore, so I'm just reading books in bed. And there's this lovely line: laying on the ground, carefully examining an ant is not something I would usually take time to do. And that was a classic example of you as an adult coming out of your comfort zone, which might be sitting in a sofa or standing up or riding a bike, actually going down to the level of your two twins. You say they're 5, did you say? They're 5 now, are they?
Yeah,
yeah.
So that's the thing. So that example, that story I shared, I mean, you'll remember from your childhood that that insatiable appetite to explore and to discover, to become an adventurer. Now, you don't need to go off to Timbuktu to do that. You can do it in your own back garden. And if you remember as a child, you'd have spent a lot of time picking up stones, and you see all the creepy crawlies under there, and it's just like you suddenly go into this sort of microcosm world. And what Luna and Star have reminded me to do is exactly that, because they'll be saying, "Oh, Daddy, look, let's go and have a look under some logs and some stones and things." And you know, the adult mind would be thinking, "Well, I've got these really serious things and sensible things I've got to do right now. I haven't got time to do that kind of thing." But of course, you get kind of like bullied into it by the kids. And then, of course, like as soon as these, I mean, we've got these big tree like logs and stuff in the garden. When you roll them over and you see what's living under there, like loads of wood lice, centipedes, we even found slow worms before, which I absolutely love, different snails and slugs and stuff, you're just completely captivated, and find actually that what happens is that going into that level that Luna and Star helped me to do, what happens is that I actually find myself occupying the present moment. And I think that's the key thing. So as adults, we're often thinking about the past and we're worrying about the future, and we spend very little time in the present. And yet the present is where our power is. That's where our empowerment lies. It's not in tomorrow or what happened yesterday. It's what is happening now. And I think that children occupy the present moment far more regularly than adults do. Now, you could say, well, they haven't got the weight of the world on their shoulder, they haven't got to pay the bills and all of that kind of stuff, but they totally have demands put on them on a daily basis, but they seem to be able to cope with them, in my view, a lot better than many adults do as we grow up. So what I'm trying to do is to advocate that childhood traits can be useful in adulthood, and then to shine a light on what underpins all of that, which is imagination, which is what you talk about a lot with the Art Connects. The reason why Art Connects is because imagination is human beings, our superpower. It is the foundation and the reason for every single human success story throughout history. So from the creation of writing and music, to the development of the arts, to every single technological advancement which is created. It's imagination which drives it. And I just feel that sometimes, particularly in the face of adversity and challenge, it's imagination which kind of takes a little bit of a back seat, and then we get into that fear mode, and then the anxiety steps in, and then our immune systems are lowered and we become more vulnerable to illness. You know, and really, it's like life is far more magical, and we're far more empowered, and limitlessly, our limitless potential is far greater than I think we are often told it is as we're growing up. And I just want to recapture that.
No, you're spot on. I think it brings me back to a point you made earlier about curiosity killing the cat. I'm here at the moment. We've got a big cardboard castle that Darryl Wakeland built for us. And that was inspired by a Bill Withers song. I don't know if you know that one, Just the Two of Us. We can make it if we try. The two of us building castles in the sky. Now, have you ever stopped to think about that phrase, building castles in the sky? Because apparently it actually stands for and represents not having ideas beyond your station. Now, you were talking earlier about, sorry? That's
cool. I didn't know that.
So that's the vibe. So we did an art camp festival this summer, and the theme was building castles in the sky, because we should have been at Camp Best in the shadow of a castle. Well, and interestingly enough, you said, well, who doesn't want people to be learning curiosity? Well, there was a time, Mike, when we didn't want 98% of the population being too curious, because their job was to sit still in a factory and office and roll out the industrial empire and the British Empire. And let's be quite clear, we only need so many James Dysons and so many Professor Robert Winstons and so many Dr. Helen Sharmans. But people need these skills to thrive in the 21st century, whether they're making money from them or not. You know, our creativity has come to its fore in lockdown, hasn't it? You know, people playing instruments, they're enjoying their music, their drama. And we've realised what's important.
Exactly, and that's the thing. There are so many positives that have come out of this as well. I know within my teaching staff here, the amount of people who, we've all been in school every single day, but people have found themselves perhaps less venturing less far away from where from their locality because of lockdown. So they discovered places in their locality they didn't realise before, myself included. I found an entire woodland in walking distance from my house, which I feel embarrassed to admit that I'd never found before, but I'd never taken the time to discover. And I'm talking about a paradise with waterfalls and incredible great oak trees and all sorts of stuff. And also people have adopted and created more skills. And that's what I mean. It's like the human spirit is stronger than all of this dark stuff going on at the moment. We find, there's that sort of the phrase, necessity is the mother of adventure. We find ways around things, and sometimes it's in the face of adversity that's where we really blossom. But going on what you were saying as well, it's not just about creativity, isn't just about going into the creative industries or becoming, somebody who's going to invent some incredible discovery or whatever. It's creativity is applicable to our immediate lives. So, for example, relationships. What relationship between two people, I'm talking about a romantic relationship, doesn't require creativity to keep that groove going and to keep the spark alive? And, actually when things start to go a little bit awry, it tends to be due to a lack of creativity and a lack of imagination. So it's about our relationships, it's about how we work, it's about how we engage with our communities, it's about how we problem solve. So when we do have problems, when we have got issues, well, if you've got a creative outlook, which can only really be fostered from a sense of sort of empowerment, well-being, a light-heartedness, an ability to be able to look at the positive, and to not necessarily think in that kind of linear way. It's difficult to be creative from a space of anxiety. It's difficult to be in a space of creativity out of fear. So it's very much, I would say, it's very much about, like that phrase, feel the fear and do it anyway. It's not that bad things don't happen in life, they do. And as I've said to you before, I've had within my own personal life lots and lots of death, whether it's my first wife or my sister or her kids or dad and various friends. And I've really kind of faced that in a very kind of upfront way and had my, head messed up by it as well, to a degree as well, and certainly within the first couple of years of like the really big ones. But what that's also made me do is it's forced me into the present moment, and it's forced me to like look at what the things that I felt like have been I've built my life by the beliefs and the things that I've sort of long held cherished beliefs really. And then just sifted through and thought, well, which ones work and which ones don't? And then I've been quite happy to throw them away when I've been really up against it. So I've just thought, well, I've got nothing left anyway. And then what I've found is that I've been left with the essence of my spirit and the essence of other people's spirit and love and beauty and life and all of the things which are actually greater than fear and anxiety and challenge, and actually which arise out of those things. Some of my greatest transformations have happened as a result of adversity, and I think that's what's happening now. To be honest with you, Nick, I feel like we're currently going through a spiritual evolution. I think we're on the tipping point of humanity, of going into a new collective, more harmonious, more beautiful, more empowered reality than we've ever seen before. I think there's going to be some really challenging times ahead on a personal level and a collective level, but I'm very, very, very optimistic about the future too.
I think what's been fascinating is how things have come tumbling down. The constructs that we took for granted, whether it's an industrial education or something a little bit more progressive that you might be describing here, and everything's up for grabs. And we've been banging heads against the wall for years, and now there've been no alternatives. People in the government who haven't been so keen to adopt educational technology have embraced it through having to eventually, albeit 9 months maybe down the line. and some of these ways of thinking. I mean, I think the key thing about this book, I mean, it says, the strapline is Wild Thing, Embracing Childhood Traits in Adulthood. And I'll be honest with you, I've made no secret of me having a Peter Pan, second life, midlife change, whatever, with my opportunities with Steenco. I've got 2 teenage sons, 13 and 15. They're embarrassed, actually 15 and 17, embarrassed as hell with me running around with a high-vis jacket with that parked in the street outside. But funny enough, I mean, one book to sort of give back to you. Are you familiar with David Almond, My Dad's a Birdman? Have you come across that?
No.
So that's basically about a man, a dad. It's in a rainy town in the north of England. There are strange goings on. Dad is building a pair of wings, eating flies and feathering his nest. Auntie Doreen is getting cross and making dumplings. Mr. Poop is parading the streets, shouting louder and louder. And even Mr. Mint, the head teacher, is getting in a flap. And watching it all is Lizzie, missing her mam and looking after Dad and thinking how beautiful the birds are. Because Dad is trying to work up to fly across the River Tyne. He's actually living a creative life to inspire his daughter. His wife has left him. The family, the neighbours think he's a nutcase, but he is using creativity to make his and her life a better place. It's a wonderful story. David Almond from the University of Bath, Spa. And for me, I think it's not about ripping everything up and starting again. It's about evolving a little bit quicker than we might have liked. And talking to you today and thinking over the weekend, I'm quite keen to run an event actually around the evolution of education, where creativity, where technology, where community, and all these things are core elements of that agenda. And I know lots of people have been looking at this and doing this, and people like LGFL, Creative Technology, Ty Goddard with his educational technology demonstrator projects. If we did that, would you be interested in helping provide some direction for that and bringing some of your learning?
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely. I'd like to just to draw on one point that you just made there about,
go for it.
There's two things that I kind of resonate with. One is there's that saying, we are the ones we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
I think waiting for other people to save us, whether that be another person in our lives, or the government, or some outside force to come and save us, is a waste of time and actually disempowers us. We can choose to save ourselves whenever we wish to, and by save ourselves I mean slip into another gear where we can embrace happiness and imagination and enrich our lives. We can do that whenever we want to. We don't need somebody else to give us permission to do so, and they're not going to wave a magic wand. We can do that ourselves. And the second thing, and I think this is so important, is to have gratitude for the great things that we have within our lives already. So look, even if you're really, really up against it and it's feeling awful, just find that one tiny bit, that glimmer of hope, that one thing that you might be enjoying. It might be that the weather is okay today. It might be that you've just eaten a beautiful meal. It might be that you're enjoying that feeling as you just get into bed and you go to sleep. Just start that spark, like starting a fire, and then tend that fire and fan that fire and build those gratitudes. Make expressing gratitude part of our daily lives, and we absolutely get lifted. And again, I think that is at the root of creativity and imagination. If we can have that same sort of awe and wonder as a child has, and that ability that children have to be able to see the magic in things instead of waiting for maybe the next announcement from the government to kind of tell us how we should feel or think, well, then we can totally be free and we can be transformed. And I think this is a very powerful, very challenging, but incredibly loaded time in terms of the potential for us to transform and to make our lives and the lives of everyone within our own personal lives absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely, but I know you've got to go, Mike, so I'm going to wrap up very quickly now. I mean, just for everybody out there, check these two books out. Playing with Fire. Mike talked about Set the World on Fire and Playing with Fire and Grit and Aspiration. That's the book for teachers and for children, parents as well, who want the best of their kids. And this is the book you really must take a look at now, Wild Thing, Embracing Childhood Traits in Adulthood, which we've been doing today. That book inspired today because it encourages you to lead a creative life, to find gratitude in everything, to be grateful for what you've got, because from that gratitude comes happiness, and from that happiness comes good luck. Everybody wants a bit of luck. You're not going to find a tenner on the floor necessarily, but if you are feeling good, if you're out and about, if you're connecting, you're making opportunities, and it's amazing what can happen. We work in some of the most challenged communities in this country, and across the road here, that behind the truck is one of the most progressive independent schools that open this summer. So we have got a range of communities. We have to work together. It's not about divisive left, right, wrong, prog, trad. We need to ignore those 10% on the extreme. We need to focus on that 80%, hashtag that 80% we have in common. And I'll tell you now, then, Mike, so hashtag Evolve Ed is the working title for this conference we're going to do in the next few months. We're not messing about because we need it now. And I just want to ask you one more thing very, very quickly. If I send you one of the 21 mirror balls, would you hang it up somewhere in your school safely to inspire people to shine light into their lives? What are your thoughts about Kylie Minogue was saying that a disco mirror ball shines light into people's lives? What are your thoughts about that? So is that a bit of vibey nonsense? What do you think, Mike? Before?
No, that's totally the vibe. That is totally the vibe. It's about shining the light, and that's a great symbol for that, because not only is that obviously a mirror ball is reflective and it shines light, and that's an analogy for the notion of spreading positivity. But I love it that it's a disco ball as well, because it's all about having fun with the vibe as well. We can still do this work in a way which is enjoyable. The fact that you've got your DJ out on the street doing this groove with the disco vibe, that people start dancing, people start getting together, obviously with all the social distancing and all the rest of it, but it brings people together, that vibe. And I just think what you're doing and the energy that you're spreading around is just absolutely fantastic, Nick, and thank you so much for sharing it with me and giving me the opportunity to spread some good love vibes too.
Mike, I can't thank you enough. You are an absolute legend. I'm just going to press this little button here. If I have a bit of a twiddle there, we're actually going to have a mirror ball on the screen behind you and I. This is the one love. This is the disco mirror ball. The disco dads. We can reclaim our country, our children's education. Say again?
What's it? Is it Disco Inferno? Do you remember, what is that one, the guys in the flares? Is it Disco Inferno?
Burn, baby, burn, Disco Inferno. Burn, baby, burn, Disco Inferno. Is that the one?
Yeah. Baby, burn. That's the vibe. That's the anthem. That's the anthem for 2021.
Burn, baby, burn. Mike Fairclough, I know you've got to get off. We haven't got time for questions now, but we're going to be doing a lot more together this year. You're an utter legend, wild thing. We're going to, actually, I'll tell you what we're going to do here now. We're going to see if we're not going to see if, we're going to give away 5 copies of this book, even if I have to buy them off my local bookshop. 5 copies of this book tonight. If you want to win one of those, just go to the form, fill your details in, and we'll do a draw in the next 24 hours, and we'll give 5 copies of that book away, and you'll also get the chance to enter for the mirror ball competition. Mike, hopefully once we'll see you on the dance floor in about 20 minutes, half an hour. Once you've done that Zoom call, see you back on the dance floor 8 till 10 with Crispin Dior. How about that? Fancy some of that?
Yeah, baby burn, let's do it.
Mike Fairclough, love you, brother. Thanks very much. Wow, how incredible is that? What an amazing man, amazing man. One of our brave school leaders, a wonderful, wonderful man, Mike Fairclough there. Thanks very much to Mike for joining us today.
I have a dream. One day, this nation will rise up, live out the meaning of its creed. The whole thing to be self-evident that all men are free.
Sorry about that. I wish I left those records lying around. I knew they'd get left out. So we're going to break now for 10-15 minutes, believe it or not, we're going to reconfigure the whole studio because of the DJ set just over there. We can't do it, we're going to do it under the tree over here. But we're a bit worried about public highway access and all that sort of stuff. So my front yard is just, where is it? Just there. My front yard is just there. So we're going to move some gear from over there to here and just plug it in. So we're going to go off there for 15 minutes. We'll get the live stream going. And then we'll see you back at 8 o'clock. We've got a 2-hour disco set. Crispin Deal just turned up. Brilliant DJ, disco DJ. DJ for William Cates Wedding. He was a resident DJ at the Fabric, one of the coolest clubs in London for a while. And the Fabric, Nursery Sound, these are venues, these are creative industry businesses that have money from the Cultural Recovery Fund, from the Department of Digital Culture, Media and Sport, as we have. So good vibes, good vibes. Thank you so much for checking that out. Any comments here? Chris Dyson checking it out, lovely, fantastic, outstanding Mike and it. Good girl, Chris Dyson in the house there. Mike had to dash off. He's sending messages while he's doing whatever he's doing. He's juggling children tonight, but bless him. Amazing man, that was so fantastic. Big love, let's rock 2021, absolutely. Hashtag, what was it, Evolved Ed? Hashtag Evolved Ed, hashtag Happy Monday 20, whatever. We are going to inspire a nation this year, and it's going to take a nation of brave school leaders like that. So thank you very much for checking us out. Now I'm going to go off there now. We'll come back at 8 with the DJ set. Bear with us if we're a few minutes late, but we've done it before, we'll do it again. Thanks a lot. Cheers now.